Last week we talked about textures. Hi, Joy. Last week, oh, and thank you for the present that came this morning. Um, Last week we talked about textures, or I talked about textures and waffled on a lot about different texture techniques. And right at the end, I kind of missed a little bit of something I would have liked to have mentioned. Hi, Joan. Which was about these like textured rollers you can get. Now, these are little small textured rollers. You can get them from Cool Tools, you can get them from Metal Clay, um, but you can also get textured rollers that are more sort of this kind of size or even bigger. And they tend to be, the ones I've seen anyway, tend to be more for the cake decorating kind of group of people. But there's still, some great textures on the rollers. The patterns tend to be quite big though, if they're for cakes. Um, so I'm not sure quite how appropriate you feel they would be needed. They would be for metal clay, because the patterns and the depth of the texture is quite chunky and quite big. Now these little texture rollers, you can get some really interesting little patterns and textures off. There's a whole variety of these. However, I will say I find them a little bit on the small side, like a bit narrow. I really wish they were a little bit longer, um, just to make them a little easier to use. Anyway, hi Hilia. Um, so let me just give you a quick example. If you've not seen these before and not used these before, I'll give you a quick sample of how to get some textures out of these little rollers. And someone asked me, do I keep polymer in my bra last week? Yes, absolutely do. Doesn't everybody? Anyway, so bit of polymer. Hi Sarah. Bit of polymer clay here, and I'm going to use this just to show you the example. So I'm going to tilt the computer down so you can see my little desk in front of me here, and here's how I'm going to use those little textured rollers. So I've got a little bit of polymer. Of course, you'd be doing this with metal clay, but I would take my 1.5mm spacers and begin to roll out this little bit of polymer clay. And I am just going to badger bomb the surface just a tiny bit to stop the polymer from sticking. And roll this out. Now this is a little firmer than my metal clay, so it takes a little bit more effort to roll this out. Now I am consciously trying to keep it in quite narrow, and that's because these little rollers are quite narrow. But yeah, you'll see exactly what I mean by that in just a second. So I'm rolling my polymer out using the 1.5mm spacers. Sarah says she loves these little rollers. How many have you got, Sarah? Confess. I've got 3 here. I think I've actually got 4 in total of these little textured rollers, but they are quite fun to use. So once you've rolled out with your 1.5mm spacers, then I'm going to switch to my 1mm spacers and just lift my little piece of clay up again before I put this down, make sure it doesn't stick. And then this is where I've got to keep the roller actually sitting, whoops, as you can see, sitting either side of, sitting on top of the 1mm spacer bars here. So I get a nice even roll. So as I roll across, the roller is actually sitting and pressing against, oh, that didn't work. Is actually sitting and pressing against, goodness me, why does this happen when I go live? That's great, isn't it? Sitting against the spacers, and as I roll over I get a really nice, wonderful texture. I don't know if you can see that. I'll lift that up and take it a little bit closer. So hopefully you can see the texture that I've got off that roller. It's really good. I really quite like it. But you can add a little bit more fun to this as well if you want to. So if I just roll that little bit of polymer up, once again, I'm going to roll this out. I'm going to roll it out a little bit freehand to begin with. because this time I'm going to add a little bit more texture into it. It's going to be like 2 textures. So it's going to be the texture of the roller and the texture of the wallpaper. Now you may or may not have seen this happen before. So if I roll it freehand for a little bit, and then I'm going to use my 1.5mm spacers and replace my clay onto a piece of wallpaper texture. Now I have just batter bombed that, so I'll just make sure I've done it again, because it's sure to go wrong when you're doing it live, but there you go. So with my 1.1mm spacers, or 4 cards thick, now I'm going to roll once again, and this time my little clay will grow a little bit further but also pick up the wallpaper texture. So now I've got that fabulous wallpaper texture in there. It's quite subtle, but it's there. Just make sure. Hang on, I'm just going to trim this down just a tiny bit. As I say, I just wish these were a little bit wider. Trim a little bit off of there. And then I'm going to swap out to some smaller spacers again. These are my 0.75. Sit them alongside, and again I'm going to roll over. Now this time I will get the texture off the roller, but I'll also still maintain the texture from the wallpaper. So the raised sections now are still maintaining the texture of the wallpaper, while the recessed sections are plain. So I hope that's picking up on the camera there. So that's using those rollers. That's quite a fun thing to do. So Sarah said Sarah's got about 15 to 20 of these rollers. Oh my goodness. And Wiz has got 5. I'm rubbish. I've got none. No, you're not rubbish at all, Joy. Fine. So that's using those little rollers. I think they're quite fun to use, but as I say, I just wish they were just that little bit longer. I think it would just make them far easier to use, and you'd get a larger surface area to get some texture out of them. But that's just my opinion, but there you go. That was the one thing I wanted to add to show you. So today I was going to add on to the textures that we were talking about last week and talk about the photopolymer plates that I talked about kind of last week. So these photopolymer plates, you can make all your own photopolymer plates, which is basically making a stamp or a texture. Now let's go back to scratch. What is a photopolymer plate? So the photopolymer plates basically are sheets of polymer, this polymer media, that is light sensitive under UV light. So just giving you a brief overview, you create something like a negative. If you think of back to the old making photographs days, you create something that looks a little bit like a negative. You then put that onto the photopolymer plate, expose it under UV light. After it's been there for a short period of time, you remove it, and then we start to clean it and wash it off. Now the stuff that's been exposed to the light hardens off. The stuff that's been masked by the sort of the negative and not being exposed to the light is still soft gel. So that can be then washed away and scrubbed away, leaving you with lovely texture plates. Now I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute, but that's basically a very brief overview of how we create them. So yes, you can create texture plates, you can create stamps, you can do lettering, you can do words, anything you like, really. So yeah, whatever you wanted to make to create your own polymer plate. And that will certainly make your work really individual. You can get some a little longer. Can you? Can you get little longer ones than these, Sarah? Anyway, that's good. So what are they used for? Obviously, as metal clay artists, we're using them as texture plates, but you can make them into stamps, so you could stamp out little individual elements. You can do some words and letterings, things like that. Now, I started looking into a brief history of where it all started, the photopolymer, and it started around about the 50s with a kind of a technique. But it comes from the lettering set printing industry, really. That's where it all started. Back in the 50s, it was probably not this at all. It was probably something else, but this grew out of it. And then around about the 80s is when photopolymer started to sort of have application within the printing industry. Now, I had a friend who had their own stationery shop going back donkey's years, and she was also creative and crafty. So she got into using photopolymer plates very, very early on, and started making photopolymer plates for paper crafting. And she did really, really well with making and selling her own range of photopolymer plates. And if you go to any of the big craft shows, you'll see they're all over the place, photopolymer plates for paper crafting and such like. But you know, as metal clay artists, we've stolen tools from various other crafts over the years, and this is another one of them. So we can certainly get our own little application out of this process. There are different types of photopolymer plates. You can get gel packs. Yeah, I've got my little box here beside me. You can get gel packs which look like this. So the sort of photopolymer gel is inside this pack. You can also get ones that look like just like a big plastic sheet. It's quite a thick plastic sheet. Now, the thickness of those sheets can vary, and some of the photopolymer sheets you can get, they're actually backed onto metal as well. So you can get metal backed photopolymer sheets, you can get plastic backed photopolymer sheets. These are photopolymer gel packs, if you like. So that's what they're all about. Excuse me. So yes, you can get different thicknesses, different types, but they all work in a pretty similar fashion. And what I've learned today is you can buy just liquid photopolymer all by itself. You don't have to have it in a gel pack or as a sheet. You can buy it like in a bottle, liquid form. However, trying to do the research on where to buy that from, I've come up against a brick wall at the moment. So if I get to the point of find a supplier that will sell it in the UK, then I will get back to you on that and perhaps show you a bit more. So until I can find the photopolymer, liquid photopolymer, I'll kind of give that a little bit of a curve now, and I'll just stick to talking about the photopolymer sheets that we can make out of. Now, there's a couple of things you need to do. Basically, first of all, you need to create an image, and there's different ways you can create your image. You can do a hand drawing, you can print something off on your computer, you can go and find copyright free images that you might want to use as well. Commonly, when I'm asked about doing photopolymer plates, it's usually for people that are interested in doing maybe fingerprint jewelry or hand and footprint jewelry, that kind of thing. And this is where I've taught a lot of people in the past about how to create the hand and footprint jewelry using photopolymer plates. So you need to create this sort of negative. So in order to create your negative, as I say, you can do your own little drawing, you can take an image off the internet, you can get copyright free images, or you can start to create your own. Now this is where, if you were doing, say, hand and footprint jewelry, you'd need an image of the baby hand or the baby foot, whatever it is. And you can use something called inkless paper and inkless wipes. and they're really easy to use. It's like it looks like a little sort of glasses wipe is the thing, and you can rub it all over the hand, and then you put the hand onto this inkless paper, and it kind of self-develops into this image. So that's how you get the image of maybe a fingerprint or a hand or a foot onto the paper. Then the image itself would need to be perhaps scanned into your computer. So using your scanner, you scan that image into your computer. Now then, you need to make sure that that image that you're going to use, the black is black and white is white, or clear is clear, whichever we want to look at it, because there's no grayscale, there's no colors here. It has to be black or white. That's the only way it's going to work. Grayscale is not going to give you any results at all, or really poor results. So you've got to change almost every little pixel into a black or a white. Okay, no grayscale on here. So you have to fiddle about in your computer to do that sometimes. Now you'll need to print off your image like you would a negative. So for this particular instance, I'm going to show you these hand and footprints that I've got, which are little baby hand and footprints, if you can see those. Let me put something behind them so you can see. A piece of tissue or a piece of paper or something. Here we go. Piece of paper. There we go. So you can see the little hand and footprints here. So these little handprints were done, you know, on inkless paper, inkless wipe, scanned into the computer. You then need to kind of invert the image, so the background is black and the image that you wanted is clear. You print these out onto some transparency paper or an acetate, whichever way you want to call it. You can use that that kind of thing. Now as you print them out, you'll need to make sure that your printer settings, that your black is printing as black as it possibly can be. So, you know, on the highest quality photo setting you can possibly make it, so you've got black that's really, really black. Now even then, when you print it off on a transparency, one layer of this, you can hold it to the light and you can still see daylight through the black, and that's not going to be good enough. So basically what I've done is printed this off several times and very meticulously and accurately layered these together. Now there's actually three, if I can show you, 3 layers. Yeah, try to separate them. There's 3 layers in here. If you can see that. There's 3 layers of images which are stacked on top of one another to make sure that the black is black and the clear is completely clear. So once you've done that, you're going to take, you can use 2 pieces of glass. Many years ago I got a kit, and in the kit was this photo frame which magnetizes together, but you can use 2 plates of glass, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. So what you want to do is take your, in this case I've got these little gel packs. You might have the harder sort of photo polymer sheets, and they, as I say, they do look like a harder plastic. They look more like this in colour, sort of yellowy orange in colour, and they're, you know, a sheet of what just looks like plastic, like that. So for these, for this particular one, this gel pack, I'm going to put this little gel pack onto my little frame, and I put the image on top of that, and then I'm going to sandwich this together. And because this photo frame is kind of magnetized, it makes sure that nothing is going to move around. It's not going to slip or slide. It really is solid and secure in there. Then this would be put into my UV light box. Now I've got a UV light box down here. You can also get a UV light box I bought many years ago and cost me an arm and a leg, but you can get fairly inexpensive UV light boxes now. There's UV gel nail stuff. Any top tips for lining up the multiple negatives? Or not really. You've just got to be absolutely spot on. If you've got do it against a window so you can really see exactly where you're going. So I put a piece of sellotape and sellotape one image to the window, and then get a piece of sellotape on the second one, and then take it up to the window so I can actually see exactly through it. And then you've just got to be meticulous as you line it up, and tape the two together, and then tape the third one on top of that as well. That's all I can suggest. Anyway, so this then would go into my light box to cure. Now, depending on the light box you get, the time can differ, and it may differ according to the type of polymer you're using and the thickness of polymer you're using, and how deep you want your image to be, etc, etc. So the only way you're gonna know what to do here is have a little go, have a little practice, do some test samples. I know that sounds awful, but that's what it needs to be done. Do some test samples. So I put this into the UV light box, and it's with this sort of image side up, if you know what I mean. This with the image side up. Now for me, in my little light box, that would be about 3 minutes. I would put it in the light box, and I am very, very, very accurate with those timings. I usually have my phone set with a timer. Now there's a plane going over. With a timer. So as soon as it beeps and pings at the 3 minutes, it gets whipped out, and then I will be taking this and undoing it. And for this particular one, I would then cut it out, take it to the sink, and start washing away the gel. Now the stuff that was exposed to the light, all the exposed areas that saw the light, will have turned hard. Anything under that black will still be soft and gel like. I'm going to put that back in the box. So you take it to the sink, and you get probably an old baby toothbrush and a bit of washing up liquid and warm water, and you start scrubbing away really carefully. Don't go at it, you know, too fiercely. You can upset the image. So you start scrubbing away a little bit at a time, and then when you've scrubbed away so much, and give it a little rinse, and then I pop it back in the light box, back in here, and I just flip it for about 20 seconds and shove it back in. So it's the back side that's getting a little bit of the light this time. Just flipped it 20 seconds, take it out, and then take it out again and start scrubbing it again and cleaning it off a little bit more. Sorry, watching in the hairdressers. You get everywhere dressed. Hello everyone in the hairdressers. Walter's beside. Put a registration mark in each corner of the master copy. It's good tip, Pat, thank you. So yeah, start to scrub away all the soft gel, like everything that's hard should stay where it is. You just have to be gentle but persistent to get all the gooey gel away. Now what I will say is some of this gooey gel, it can be smelly sometimes depending on what you're using, and for some people it can irritate your skin. So if you know you're sensitive, your skin is very sensitive, then you might need to wear some gloves or something. And remember the first time I did it, it did kind of react with me a little bit down here in between my fingers. I was itchy for hours. It was really irritating, but subsequently over the years, and I've done lots and lots, and it's been fine ever since. But if you know your skin is sensitive to things like this, then maybe wear some gloves. Also, my UV light box that I have is quite a big thing, and it has all these safety features that actually has a big door on it, and the light won't come on until the door is closed. But some of these nail art things, they are just kind of open little carcasses, and you can see the light peeping out. Now, UV light is harmful to your eyes, so don't look at it. Don't look in. And I also, when I was using mine, I did have a nail art one for a little bit. I put tea towel over it so I wasn't tempted to look at it. So just be careful of that. Wiz said, I made a vertical strip of numbers, covered most with loose piece of card. Every 10 seconds revealed another number when it washed out, and helped me decide on the exposure time. Yes, exactly. I was coming to that point about exposure time. So as I say, everybody's light box will be different in terms of the amount of time that you keep it under. It will depend on the strength of the light and the size of your light box and the type of photopolymer plate or PPP that you're using, etc., how thick it is. But as Wiz suggested, there's a little test you could do. So you're making yourself like a little one of these, but if you imagine, you can put rows and rows of either letters or, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is, down the length of it. And then you can kind of cover it up and expose it for, you know, 30 seconds, and then take it out, move it down to the next letter, expose it for another 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is, take it out. And because you've worked your way down the length with different exposure times, that will, when you've scrubbed it off, you'll know exactly the length of exposure time you need for your light box. So there you go. There is loads and loads of information. I know Metal Clay have got an information sheet on their website if you wanted to go and have a look at that. And there's loads of stuff on the internet, on YouTube and things for you to have a look. For photopolymer plates and how to create them. As I say, it was used in industry for like printmaking many years ago, but no longer. Okay, so once you have cleared away all the excess gel, you need to give it a good rinse and to let it dry, and then you'll have a really nice photopolymer plate which you can ink and stamp and use into, yeah, Pam East has an epic YouTube video out there. Yes, she does. Yeah, I've just remembered that one. Thank you for that. So yeah, you can use these for inking and stamping and pushing into your metal clay, or use it like a texture plate, put your clay on top and roll over. So it's got lots and lots of applications for creating your own photopolymer plate. Instead of using negatives like this, you could also use die cuts, like die cut card. I was trying to find something. If anybody's got a Cricut or a Cameo or Silhouette or any of those sort of things, you can cut out bits of card with your patterns on, and then you can use that instead of this. So, you know, if it ends up with holes and apertures in, I was trying to find something like an example. Just bear with me a second, I might have something just here. So say for example, so this is a little something that I cut out on my curio. So imagine that was in black card, or that would be something better really, wouldn't it? So something like this. You can cut out shapes anyway in a piece of card. It doesn't have to be black card, just any dark card, and that would do the job. It doesn't have to be this, you know. You can use some vinyl. People use vinyl wraps to do lettering, or to cover furniture. You know, you can buy vinyl from the DIY stores and things to cover furniture. So you could cut out shapes from vinyl, etc., and you can use that instead of using this sort of thing. So yeah, making bits of black black card would be so much easier. Yeah, it is. You can hand cut something. You could hand cut it with your craft knife or with a pair of scissors or paper punches. You know, if you've got paper punches like this, you could paper punch out some patterns. Again, this is, I think this was going backwards, something I showed the other week. So you can paper punch out something like this, say if that was in black card, and then expose that, and then you've got a texture. Again, this is like a die that you'd use in a Big Shot or one of those crafting machines where you can cut out card from, so you could use either the die cut itself or even a piece of card that had been die cut, if you catch my drift. So there's a few options there as well. So yeah, have a go at making your own photopolymer plates. This is one of my if you've seen this little flower, this is one of my photopolymer plates from quite a long time ago, and there's rings out there with my little flower on, and I used to use that for teaching a class to do a ring. Gosh, so much experiment. I need to retire. Yeah, me too. Do you know what? There's never going to be, I'll never fulfill everything I ever want to do. I'm sure I won't in my lifetime, but you know, I'll die happy. There's so much more to do. Indeed there is. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into having a go at making a photopolymer plate. As I say, I'm not going into the nitty-gritty details. There is loads of tutorials out there, but if it's inspired you to have a go and have a play and go and find out more, then yeah, please do. So I kind of leave it at that for today. The thunder's now stopped, I think. So thank you for joining me again. I hope we've given you a couple of tips and hints once again, and I'll be with you again next week. Oh, one thing about next week, Sophia messaged me earlier about something she would like me to do. So if you've got any other ideas of things you'd like me to talk about or demonstrate, then please just drop me a line, either here in my little inbox, or drop me an email, tracy@craftworks.co.uk, or put a message into my messenger. Just find a way to contact me, you know, Tracy Spurgeon, big so yeah, just message me if there's something you would like me to have a chat with you about and give you a few more details. Okay, take care folks, have a good afternoon, see you again.